Hello, I'm urban fantasy author Hadley Thorne. Tonight on Wyrd Realities, we are bringing you the best in true crime, forgotten history, and chilling truth with our segment Wyrd Murders, Mysteries, and Mayhem. On this episode, we are discussing the October 8th, 2009 disappearance of Bobby Jamison, his wife Sherilynn, and daughter Madyson. Theories abound from a drug deal gone bad to the occult, witchcraft, and the paranormal. Stay tuned because it's about to get weird. Happy Thursday. Joining me are occult research analyst, podcaster, and designer Morgana Calder and behavioral health professional Jenn Salmons. Hey ladies, how are y'all doing this evening?
Hey, doing great.
Hello.
Good.
So, I see that we're talking about the Jamison family. I don't know if you had to get your tinfoil hat out, but I did.
It's some interesting theories about what happened on that. You know, it's one of those that crosses a pretty wide range of what might have happened.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Morgana, would you like to give the background on it?
Yeah, sure. It was 2009, I think. Yes. Bobby Jamison and his wife and child had gotten into their truck and went into the Bois Mountains in Oklahoma. And that was the last time anybody saw him. They were reported missing. They found the truck. The truck had a lot of personal stuff in it, so they really didn't think that they had intended to be gone from the truck for long. There was the wallet of the husband in there. The wife's purse was in there. The family dog was in the back seat, and was very malnourished and everything. So, it just didn't seem like they'd have left those things in the vehicle, if they had not planned to come back.
The big thing they found in the vehicle was like $35,000.
Yes, absolutely. And they said that they were both on disability. So the fact that they had that kind of cash was really unusual. A big search went. They did not find them. They looked, and finally the case went cold until about 4 years later, a hunter found the remains of 2 adults and a child, and tests showed that it was the Jamison family.
Well, first off, I'm going to say hi to Dark Horse Tales and hi to Mark Eady. Welcome.
Hey.
Hello.
And then I'm going to skip back over to the Jamison murders. The weird thing, there's so much weird in this. It's just, where do we start to unpack it? But
can I ask a question before we get too far down that rabbit hole?
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things I saw, and I don't know if this is accurate, that they were looking at that plot of land or somewhere near that plot of land that they were going to purchase it. Is there anything that you guys read about that?
Yes.
They were going to move into some storage containers and basically go off grid on that property. From what I researched, they found where the truck had gone like deeper into, I guess, the area, and then was driving out. And that was where they found the truck. And the bodies, like they left the dog in the car, and then the 3 family members got out and went walking and just disappeared. Well, when they did the search party, they had a lot of people, I would say like 50 people or more searching that area. And, when you're doing a search and rescue grid, they're pretty good at what they're doing. They had dogs out. Mm-hmm. The dogs picked up on, they hit on I want to say like a water citron, I don't know what you call it, water tower. And they drained it thinking they were going to find the bodies there, but they didn't. But then, like 4 years later, they find the bodies within 300 yards of where they found the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really weird because that was a search area. They searched that area. Why didn't they find the bodies?
Right, and they weren't what you would consider hidden.
Mm-mm. They were just like face down on the, I guess, ground.
Right.
Well, there's so much weird with this. I mean, for me, because again, conspiracy theorist here, I was
Mhm.
thinking to myself, well, I mean, I would think that buzzards would have alerted me to the fact that there were 3 bodies rotting in this close of proximity to where we were searching.
Yep.
Why didn't the dogs pick up on them? And I mean, my theory is that they were taken and brought back.
And here's another thing I never, I didn't find, and maybe I just missed it. That back to what Jim was talking about on that plot of land. Nobody ever said anything about a realtor that was supposed to have met them there or anything like that. I mean, did I just miss that?
I don't know. I've had some conflicts with some of the stuff that I read was that they owned the land,
Hmm.
which there would be no need for a realtor to be there, but that they were moving there, that they were moving out to their land to live in these storage containers. But 2 weeks prior, now, okay, Sherilynn had a child from a previous relationship, and he no longer lived with them. He went to live with his father, but he had been to visit 2 weeks prior to the disappearance, and his mother did not mention anything about them moving to him,
Hmm.
and that's odd.
Right. Yeah, because you'd think that would come up, during his visit. Oh, by the way, next time you come, we'll be
And
out here.
and all of this is very weird and fascinating all on its own, but
You
let's
said
throw
that
it.
they were going to get pods. Do we know that for sure? Because I did see something that said that they were meeting someone there to look at the land as a possibility, like that they didn't own it, but I don't know which
They
is
had
accurate.
they had the storage containers. Now, whether or not they had the land, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's I'm looking at right now. Said the plan was to live in a storage shed that they already owned on the land. So
Oh,
um, maybe they were going to expand on it after a certain amount of time. I mean, and then
but they didn't own it at that time.
no, it said they visited an associate of the landowner. When the meeting was done, the family parked and went for a short walk for around 15 minutes, taking their GPS unit and found a quiet spot. And after they returned, they drove a little further, then left the locked truck in the middle of the track and vanished.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to understand why they didn't take the dog with them, and I was thinking,
Mm-hmm.
the whoever made them, from what I think is someone stopped them, got them out of the car, and made them leave the dog in it,
Mm-hmm.
probably at gunpoint. Because the dog, as a dog owner, I can say that not necessarily an equalizer, but you cannot predict the behavior of an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be safe, if you were in any way, shape, or form smart, you would not want the animal out of the car if you had ill intent towards its owners.
Right. Right. And if it were, something like, a robbery gone bad, they wouldn't have found that kind of money in
No.
the vehicle.
Well, and let's talk about them loading the car up, because that's another weird thing was
Mm-hmm.
the police or the sheriff, they are the ones who said it was like they're in a trance. They had a security footage of the family loading up and the process of them going back and forth with their belongings, packing up the truck. Um, they did not communicate with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the items that they just was very robotic in the way they moved, and there's actually footage of this you can see online.
Yes. Yes. I actually saw that.
They this brings into the question: were they drugged? Were they on drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had he had back problems, and he had that's wh- he wasn't working, so already he had some issues, but there was some curiosity over were they involved in crystal meth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
So they had both lost a lot of weight, but at the same time, there was stuff going on, which, I mean, you talk about paranoia and it factors into stuff that they were saying was going on at their house, was that their house was haunted. They, he went to their pastor and asked for
Mm-hmm.
special bullets to kill the entity that was at their house that was trying to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she was writing graffiti about witches and their cats She had a witch's Bible that her and her friend had both bought a copy of.
She also had a satanic Bible.
Yes,
Mhm.
and her friend that she bought the book with had made the statement that she said, and I quote, "In all seriousness, their house was haunted."
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's a little bit of everything involved in this. There's there was something about they had this guy that lived with them who was a white supremacist, and she had pulled a gun on him and made him move out.
Mhm. Well,
Um,
and he also had a restraining order against his father. That his father had threatened to kill him and his family, so he actually had a restraining order against him. So, you know, that would be somebody too. I would think that could have possibly coerced them into getting out of the vehicle.
yeah, that's true. Well, and it just makes you wonder. I mean,
Hmm.
the again, no one knew where the money came from.
Yeah.
So that was a big. The family did not know about the money, so
Mhm.
it obviously wasn't that. But she had a mysterious brown satchel. I think that they did not find. Is that
Mhm.
correct? I can't remember the exact on that.
Uh,
But
I
I know
don't
they saw
remember.
her load it. But I want to say they didn't find it. That was the only thing they didn't find.
And
Um,
I think there was they thought that she had a pistol that was not found too. And she was also, and like I said, this isn't, about, necessarily that specifically, but that can add to the paranoia and everything like that. She was bipolar. So, you've got him with a back injury taking meds, and then you've got her with a mental condition that can cause paranoia and stuff. So, you know, if
well,
you
How far
it
added
away were they from home?
like 40 miles.
yeah, it wasn't an extreme. I mean, it wasn't that far.
Uh-uh.
That it, like I said, it's a very weird set of circumstance. And then even when they found the bodies, they could not. The bodies were in such bad condition, they could not identify the cause of death. He had a hole in his skull that they thought could have been a bullet hole, but because of the deterioration of everything else, they couldn't discount that it wasn't something that happened, to the body after when it was in the process of decomposing. Because not only did they, I mean, wild animals had ravaged them and all that, but I mean, this is, 4 years later
Hmm.
that the bodies had been out there for that long.
Well,
And
and
like I said, I still think that someone brought them back, because it's just weird to me that these people go missing, and then within 300 yards of where their truck is found, there's their bodies, three of them. You know,
and another thing on that too. Okay, say they were out there, for however long. That if scavengers had, gotten hold to them, they would not have found all of the remains right there together, pretty much stacked.
yeah.
You know,
Well, they were lined up and all face
hmm.
down.
Right,
It wasn't like they were, like had
right.
gotten cold, and or, I mean, it
Right,
was
yeah, it
weird.
wasn't a pile of bones or anything like that. But like I said, yeah, just knowing wild animals and stuff and how they tend to react to a food source. Just the fact that it was all right there. Whereas if it was something that was brought back and disposed of at a later time, maybe there was enough deterioration to have prevented that from happening too.
Right. And the photo of, I think Madyson was the little 6-year-old, their
Hmm.
daughter, um, and I've got it on our backdrop tonight. The photo is the last photo taken of her. They think that it was not taken by her parents. They think it was like the last known photo of her taken that day. And her family and experts that I saw on the show were talking about how distressed she looks,
Hmm.
that she looks like she's crying and she's upset. And they said, if you knew this little girl, this was on her mother's phone, and if it was the mother taking it, that all the photos that she took with her mom, that as a baseline, look different. She was smiling. She was looking at her mother. In this photo, she's looking away. She's obviously distressed. She's crying, and you can see she's got her arms crossed in front of her. Now, some people can argue and say, well, that's just a little bratty kid, which, I mean, I'm no expert on children, so, I mean, I wouldn't know, but y'all are both parents, and, I would say that the grandmother would probably have a better idea than anyone else, and the grandmother's convinced that a cult had something to do with their murders.
Right. Yep. I mean, she's still to now, the latest one I found, interview with her was, I think, 2019, and she still swears that is what happened. She has not varied from that at all. And that was the thing too with his father, that part of the protection order came from the fact that his father was involved with prostitutes, gangs, and meth. I mean, you just swing back to that also. So like I said, it's the reason I kind of vary away from that is because I feel like if that were that serious, then the mother would have been quicker to look at the ex as, I would think she would know if his father had, been making current contact with him. And I could be wrong, but it just, seems like that's a little bit outside of the realm.
Well, it's definitely a very interesting case. And, it remains unsolved to this day. People don't know. I mean, like I said, for me, there's a lot of really weird things in it. A lot of stories that I've read, there was the white supremacist. There was actually something about the Mexican cartel might have been involved in a drug deal gone bad. Right. Then you have the whole demonic possession. I think that was one of the things. The house, the paranormal, the cult. I don't even know. The family thing.
Right. Well, and that was another thing on the family, because like I said, when they were investigating the father, he died like 2 or 3 months after they disappeared, and said that he had been in, bad health for a while. So, even when they interviewed his brother-in-law, I think it was his brother, said that, that the father was either in the hospital or rest home or something like that, because even though he was a disturbed person, he was not physically capable of carrying out that kind of, deed.
Yeah. I mean, I've even seen murder-suicide as one of the things that they've, suspected. But the reality of it is it could be any of these things because we just don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. Because, as soon as you start reading up on it and everything, you may say, okay, well, yeah, maybe it was a cult. And then it starts leaning more towards drugs. And then, I mean, like I said, the wife wrote the husband, they found an 11-page letter where she was just reaming his ass. So that was, I think, where they got it might be a murder-suicide, So there is an argument for almost everything, of almost everything that they say. There is some evidence that support it.
The only part that doesn't make sense, if any of those were true, is that they went off. They were face down. According to that, the bones weren't scattered like they should have been. And they didn't find them in the search. That just doesn't even make sense to me.
Well, the thing that gets me, and again, it goes, as y'all know, I'm very involved in search dogs. Dogs, for them to pinpoint on that tower, wasn't just one dog. It was multiple dogs hit on that tower, and that means at some point in time, somebody with their scent was at that tower. Why didn't they pick up on the bodies?
Yeah.
If it was that close, why didn't those dogs pick up on those bodies? And that says to me they weren't there.
Right. That they probably started out there and somebody removed them. And of course, if they were put into a vehicle, then the dog's going to lose the scent as soon as,
Yep.
that's broken and everything. So, and like I said, and still, like I said, I get, the decomposition and everything, but, and of course, okay, I'm a notorious serial killer fan and everything when it comes to documentaries, but it's like they can always find a little bit of evidence, but it's like the bodies were clean.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is strange too. There were questions about, oh, well, if it was drugs, why did they bring the child along? Well, people on drugs do stupid stuff, including taking their children to places they shouldn't have them.
Well, the family dog was a weird, choice for me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're making a drug deal, why would you take the dog? And it wasn't like it was like a pit bull or a German shepherd. It was like a little border collie mix. It was
right.
Okay, so this one says that the remains were discovered 3 miles away, less than 3 miles, so a little under 3 miles from where the Jamisons had disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They found shoes, bits of clothing, adult teeth, an adult arm, leg, and bone fragments.
So, like I said, you get different stuff from different places. Which kind of makes you wonder, what was it? Did they find that small amount of stuff, or did they find them all laying face down?
Yeah, the face down part, that's kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's almost, almost execution type.
Well, and that's what the mother, Sherilynn's mother, says. She believes that a religious cult was behind the killings, that they were on an Oklahoma cult hit list.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I shouldn't laugh, but
there are stranger things out there.
Yeah, this is a quote from her. "Just like I've said from the beginning, I think somebody killed them. There's no way that Bobby and Sherilynn would have ever let anything happen to Madyson unless something had been done to them."
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes into the family's pastor, Gary Brandon, proposed Bobby and Sherilynn were engaged in a spiritual warfare, that the Jamisons believed spirits possessed their home. Allegedly, Bobby told Brandon he had a satanic Bible and later asked the pastor for special bullets to help with an exorcism. During the first investigation of the Jamison home, police found messages inscribed on family storage units, such as 3 cats killed today by people in the area. Witches don't like their black cats killed. Brandon also maintained Sherilynn told him she saw multiple spirits at the house, but she believed she had the ability to cast out demons. And then I read something else where Madyson had a imaginary friend named Emily that they believed was a ghost that was malevolent.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's a briefcase and a gun that were missing, both registered to Sherilynn, that were never found.
There's also a theory that they were going into witness protection.
I had heard that too. I forget where I read that at, but yeah.
She had removed, that they had taken Madyson out of school shortly before the disappearance.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if they were only going an hour away to look at stuff, to look at this piece of land, when you watch that video outside of their house, they're putting a lot of stuff in their vehicle. And yes, you take a lot of stuff when you have kids. You're taking drinks, you're taking a cooler. But they made a dozen trips back and forth each, putting stuff in the vehicle.
Well, I'm going to say that that's probably the best theory so far for me because I can see the marshals not letting them take $32,000.
Right. Yeah.
Jen, what do you think?
I don't know. I think there's just a lot of inconsistencies about what occurred. And that's why I was actually just looking into what this one said. And the sheriff's office seems to agree with you, Heather, the spokesman for them. They said they think that somebody forced them out of the truck that they knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just reading about that.
Oh, well, here's one. It's a new one. Kidnapping plot. It goes into the photo with that I was telling y'all about. Says that when in 2014 they found a dried flower with Madyson's remains, and that they have the theory that someone murdered the Jamisons for their daughter.
Huh.
And
So,
I will say this,
wait.
the dog, they bought the dog for her because she was having trouble adjusting to something. And that the puppy was like her way of like to help her communicate with people. So that would make sense as to why the dog was there and why the dog was left in the car, is if maybe they were selling her. Maybe this was a human trafficking thing that went bad.
Well, but they found her remains, correct? It would have
3
been a
years
child
later.
size. Yeah, child. It would still be a child size remains, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, something could have gone wrong, but they said they found a dried flower with hers.
right.
I don't know. I'm grasping at straws.
Yeah.
There's so
Well,
much could be going on here.
there are a lot of straws to grasp at. You know, let's see.
Oh, they were disoriented from carbon monoxide.
Well, you know, one said that they got lost in the woods and that they died from hypothermia, but it was like, according to the almanac, like 40 degrees that night. You know, you don't die of hypothermia in 40-degree weather.
Not lined up like that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
In 2013, deer hunters found the bodies less than 3 miles away from their truck. Police later confirmed there were no signs of foul play. However, medical examiners ruled the cause of their death as unknown due to the level of decomposition, but could not rule out disease or trauma. Well, I mean, I'm going to guess that it wasn't disease.
Not all three of them.
No.
So, yeah, that's weird. And you know, because I was just reading something too that said there were 4 malevolent spirits that lived on the roof of their house, and that they had been torturing them.
Well,
and that was why he went to the preacher.
I just don't know if I believe that they were being tortured by spirits.
Yeah.
That to me, that falls more into the crystal myth stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. You know, and I would think, because I know that, you know, they said that they had pulled the daughter out of school, you know,
Hey,
a little
Laura.
bit before that. Hey, Laura. But nobody ever talked about the little girl seeming like she was undergoing trauma. And I would think if there were malevolent spirits, that she would have shown some signs of distress to people that knew her.
Well, in that picture, that last picture, she looks distressed.
Well, yeah. Not real
It's
sure
very,
what that's
very
all about.
Bobo-faced little baby there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very red-faced, you know. And like I said, you know, yeah, kids do get bratty and throw temper tantrums and stuff, but those aren't usually the pictures as a parent you take, you know, not if they're just being bratty. Or I didn't. You know, I think I've got 1 or 2 of my kids screaming, but it was good. It was funny circumstances that made it a funny picture. That's not a funny picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask our professional behavioral specialist here.
Oh, shit.
Because this keeps cropping up. Do you think her being bipolar could contribute to this, or do you think that's just somebody scratching?
I definitely think it could play into it, yes. But I also think that if you mix that with meth, I think it can cause all kinds of problems. I mean, it can make you delusional. It can, that whole, we're being taken over by spirits and we're being tortured. Absolutely. Meth can play into that as well. And if she was, it depends. Was she on medications? Like, we don't know that kind of stuff.
She had a history of not staying on her medications.
Most bipolars don't.
Right.
Or at least, I mean, some of them absolutely stay on it and stay stable for years and years. But well, actually, I don't know one that I've treated that didn't try to go off because they didn't think they needed it anymore.
Yeah.
That's God's honest truth. I mean, I have worked with several, and almost every one of them, they get to where they're stable and things are going good, and they're like, I don't need this. I could do it. I got this now. I figured it out. And it's like, oh, no, that's not a good plan.
Well, have y'all come across the 11-page note from Sherilynn to Bobby that the sheriff described as just a lot of hate?
Yes, I did know there was a letter that they found. That
I
they
didn't
said was,
see it or hear about it. Tell me what all was in it.
The sheriff just says he describes it as just a lot of hate. I saw where her best friend had said that it was nothing, that she would do that when she was working through stuff, that she would write out her feelings. But they did find the letter in the truck. And someone,
Yes.
I can't believe it's not Boo Bradley.
No, it's Blade Morgan.
But anyway, so there's that. And then another thing was, as a chronic pain sufferer, they want to know how he managed a 3-mile hike.
Yeah.
So lots of questions, no answers. It's,
well, if you're at gunpoint, you manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it might be why you got shot too.
Yep.
Right. And like the bipolar too, and there's also the self-medicating type.
Okay. Well, this says that both Bobby and Sherilynn belong to what this person is going to call an alternative church. So I don't know what an alternative church is.
No, I've never heard it put quite that way before.
No.
Usually people have a name for it. If it's something outside the norm and everything. But that's they also talked about the little girl's imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not unusual for children to have imaginary friends, but said that Sherilynn firmly believed that the friend was malevolent and it was an actual being. But again, the child showed no signs that I've read about or heard that, because I listened to a podcast too, but nobody reported that the child showed any signs of distress. So, I mean, if her parents were always, flaked out or whatever, then that probably wouldn't have had a huge outward deal.
Well, this is interesting. Mm-hmm. This is going into the special bullet and all that and the ghost on the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, it seems that there's something about this religion that either took advantage of them or brainwashed them. It gives an almost eerie budget Scientology feeling.
Well, and did they say priest or pastor or?
Oh, I think it was pastor, preacher. It's a preacher.
Yeah, and I'm looking at pastor.
But I mean, I've never heard of special bullets that kill ghosts, so I don't know where that's coming from. And I mean,
no, that's werewolves.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like
so.
And they were planning on homeschooling her, going off grid.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, they were planning on homeschooling the daughter and going off grid in their, I don't know, storage container. It's very strange.
Well, I would like to know who that preacher was and what that church was that we're talking about.
I know, and they're very they haven't mentioned the name of the church once in
Mhm.
anything I've seen.
No, I haven't seen anything either. But
Oh my goodness. Okay, it was a 300-person search with helicopters and dogs.
Yeah, I read about
So,
that part.
yeah, there's no way they would have missed those bodies. Those bodies weren't there. Because when you're walking a grid, I mean, you walk shoulder to shoulder with the person next to you. You know?
mm-hmm. Yep, yep. Well, and back to them walking back and forth. They interviewed one of the officers that was watching it. They made 20 trips back and forth to the truck without saying one word to each other. And there were times that they walked back and forth and neither of them had anything in their hands.
Yeah.
So, like I said, definitely not typical.
But I have to, not that I know much about crystal meth, but I mean, that's not what a crystal meth head would do, is it? I mean, I watched Breaking Bad. They didn't act like that.
From my experience, they're usually way hyper. Trance
Yeah.
like doesn't usually come into the equation. That's
Starting projects that they don't finish. Yes.
yes.
Like there was somebody that I worked with one time. Pretty sure they did meth. I used to work a third shift, and they were up on the counter cleaning above and behind like these like cabinets, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And like only made it halfway down the row of cabinets, and I was like, and then was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be done with that now." Okay, well, I
Hey,
wouldn't have got
Tony.
up there to start
Hey,
that,
Tony.
but okay.
Oh, I used to know a guy that would sit there for hours sharpening knives. I mean,
That's nice.
he would sharpen one and he'd put it away. Then he'd go find another one. He would ask you for yours.
Oh no.
I mean, yeah, he could not be
But
still.
not trance
Not
like.
trance like, no, hell no. You just wanted him to shut up because he never shut up while he was cleaning the knives. Like, just pay attention to what you're doing, But like I said, yeah, they're generally very chatty.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I know, like Mo and I, a lot of times we'll be packing to go. We go to a reunion every year that's over, Labor Day weekend. So we're going back and forth, loading things up, and you're going to see us get the hell out of my way. Would you move? We're constantly picking at each other as we're going back and forth. There have been times when we've actually been ticked off, and it's still the same behavior, though. You don't see us just staring off into space and walking around each other and not speaking. It's like part of the ritual of packing up to go somewhere.
Well, do y'all think that the letter has anything to do with them? Maybe he killed her. I mean, because it was a, let's say, 11-page hate letter from Sherilynn to Bobby. She said he didn't care about his daughter and listed all the things she hated about him, including that he was a loner and a hermit and she wanted a divorce.
I would say maybe he would kill her, but I don't know that he'd kill his child. But there are some crazy people in this world, that would do it without a second thought. Well, if I can't have you, nobody can, and I'm not letting anybody else raise my child either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would think they would have found some kind of weapon if he'd have done it. Because if you commit suicide, then there are very few places for the murder weapon to go. But again, why didn't the dogs find them?
That's the part that I can't quite get past.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they said that, okay, this article that I found now is saying that it was they were in the Smokestack Hollow area of Panola Mountain, and it is extremely remote, and that the 3 bodies were severely decomposed um with their shoes and all that. So I I don't understand because it's only 2.7 miles from where the truck was located. I
Mhm.
don't understand why a search party of 300 people would not have found that.
Yeah.
Especially when it had dogs and they how many dogs did it have? I saw somewhere. 16 teams of cadaver dogs and an unmanned drone. They had 400 volunteers, horses, mules, ATVs, and 16 teams of dogs.
Wow.
Yeah. And the cadaver dog teams reportedly found scent near that water tower, which was promptly drained. That's how convinced they were that those dogs were onto something. And y'all, I'm just gonna say it again. One dog might be wrong, 16 dogs are not.
Right. Right. I mean, not that close because, and I haven't found anywhere how big the area they searched was, but it had to have been more than 3 miles.
Oh yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
sure they would have. Um, I don't know how much a search area is, but I mean,
well, I mean, 3 miles is a very short walk for the average person. The average person, I mean, they'll be, winded at the end of it, but I mean, most people can do that. So why would you not assume that they could have gone that far?
yeah. Well, I mean, even a 5-year-old child can walk 2.7 miles on a good
Mhm.
day. I mean, you
Yeah.
would think the search area would have probably been at least what 10. I mean, I would think longer.
Uh-huh.
If if someone could, I know we've only got like 4 people on with us, but if someone could possibly Google to find out how big a search area they usually will search. But they had the drone, they had the helicopter, they had 16 teams, 400 volunteers. I mean, that's crazy large.
Okay, here's a good question or a good comment. Maybe.
I'm sorry, I'm reading Laura's comment.
That's what that's the one I'm talking about.
Well, I do believe that someone moved those bodies. I don't know if they were involved in the search or not.
Mhm.
Um, I think that someone they I don't know they must have done something to them around that water tower.
Mhm.
Is what I'm thinking.
Right.
I don't know. I'd be interested to know if there were any psychics that had reported on this.
That's a good question, and it would be a good one for one to go into because of all of the possibilities that there was something paranormal involved or there was something spiritual involved. Even if that wasn't it, you would think that it would have drawn someone to at least reach out and try to find something. Um, and if it was drugs, yeah, there's a damn good case that, whoever killed them wouldn't have thought twice about killing a child. But it's still weird, that there's so much else there, so many more questions there. Um, yes, they did say that a dry flower was found with Madyson's remains. Just saw that.
Well, so Jen, bottom line, what do you think happened to them?
I kind of lean towards that whole that yes, they were paranoid. Did you see the part about them stopping and they got out with the GPS on the other time they stopped?
Yeah, that and then they drove to wherever they. It's like they got. To me, it's like somebody stopped them.
That's what I'm. That's where I would fall, only because they left everything in the car
Mhm.
and including the GPS. Whereas if they were just going out to look at something, they wouldn't lock the doors. They were just hopping out to go look at something and oh, is that a deer? What I or whatever they were. That's not what it looked like. They
Right.
wouldn't lock the doors for that.
Well, they did have $32,000 cash underneath the seat, so they might. I might have.
Well, but then they would have taken their purse. She would have taken the GPS like they did on the other thing.
Yeah. Well, it
Here's a,
is weird. I
did
mean,
anybody ever
maybe the
find the
reason they left
key?
the dog was because of the money.
Right. Did anybody ever mention if they found the keys to the car, the truck?
No, I didn't hear
No.
anything about that.
Mm-mm, I didn't either. But again, that's one of those things I would have thought. If they had been with him at the time of death, they'd have found them when they found the remains.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's
going to say that.
Well,
I mean, there are certain things that I think are not logical. I would want to know more about the church.
mhm,
yeah. I find it suspicious that the church isn't named.
yeah.
Well, and this person that just says he wanted a magic bullet, I don't know a lot of people that would go to their preacher or pastor or whatever every other word you want to use. I don't know anybody that would do that.
Well,
No,
I want
not
to
for
know what
bullets.
cult had a hit out on them. I mean, why isn't that mentioned?
It was
And
the
how did they know? I mean, how do you know if you're on a cult hit list? I mean,
but it was the cult. You know,
So was it
they
the cult that the
the
preacher was
band.
part of?
I don't know, but yeah, it's just strange. Like I said, her mother had also mentioned, like I said, how erratic her behavior is that she was riding with her somewhere and that she just stopped and told her get out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so like I said, girls, definitely not medicated properly or something, like I said, just to be to the extreme that she had gone to. And maybe she was in one, in some kind of episode when she wrote the letter to him. Who's
Yeah.
to say? Who's to say? Because
Well, that's what her friend said the letter, just don't even pay attention to it because she did stuff like that.
right, yeah,
And people do that to work out whatever they're feeling. That's very
Yeah.
yes,
possible.
hmm
It could be that, I just want to get it all out of my head because what I want to do is like scream and yell and say awful things to him. But instead, I'm going to write this letter.
right.
Well, I mean, and I've done that when I
Uh,
was going through my divorce. I mean, I did that. I would write the letter because I didn't want to have the fight, you
mhm.
know,
And
Right.
I have done the same thing, written a letter and then trashed it.
burned it,
Yes, I definitely didn't leave
release
it to
that
be
negativity.
found. Yep, yep,
It
yep.
is weird that she had it with her in the truck.
Unless she was writing it while they were driving. I don't know. I mean, you just never know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
something I mean, you just never know with something like that.
right.
Well, anyway, I thought this was a fascinating topic for us. I know that we have a couple more coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be back. Um, Tony, I'm going to pull Tony's. Yeah, bear in mind. And
Mhm.
I would like to mention that Tony is a subject matter expert. He is a retired policeman
Oh,
or police
cool.
chief, I believe. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Tony. Always.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, that like I said, I'd be right there too. I just don't see how dogs could have missed them. Even if they had only gotten within a quarter mile of them, they'd have still picked up a scent and followed that scent to that spot.
Right.
You know,
Well, like I
so
said. So, what do you think happened?
uh, the same. I think they either met someone and things went south, or someone stopped them. Whether it
Thank you,
was
Dark Horse. We'll help you come back next week.
whether it was, an intentional thing that they actually met someone and it just went bad, or whether it was totally random, I couldn't tell you. Like I said, there are so many holes in every one of the scenarios, but there's enough there that a lot of them could be possible. But like I said, it's the whole them not finding the bodies for that length of time that
Well,
throws
I'm
me.
going to go with that. I believe they got relocated by witness protection.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
So, okay, on that, do you think that they went back to the area at some time later, or that they got found, or
I don't know. I mean, I don't.
What
I
do you
really
mean
don't.
they went into witness protection? I mean, because they were found.
Well, when they were on a cult hit list, I mean, I don't know. Um, I'm not sure why, but I think that makes the most sense as to why they had the money and why they had the dogs in the car and they had been acting weird. I think that that's kind of like they're kind of in shock. I think that's how they acted is that they were in shock and they had probably something happened. I think something happened probably pretty fast, but
Well, it could be too that they went to meet someone and, if it was witness protection and were intercepted by the person they were going in to avoid.
yeah, true. Lots of stuff to unpack. And I
Mm-hmm.
just, like I said, I've got to say this. We will be back. This is an ongoing thing. We'll be doing this every Thursday, guys. So please tell your friends, come back. And next week, or I believe the week after, I'm not sure, but coming up, we're going to be doing the Girl Scout murders also that took place in Oklahoma that have a lot of occult and paranormal witchcraft, dark magic type things associated with it, as well as the whole serial killer aspect of it. So it's probably going to be 1 or 2 episodes. We'll probably stretch it out. I don't think that we can finish that up in just one episode, but um, I'm actually really looking forward to doing the research for this one. Um, that's about
Yep.
it.
All
But
right.
so if you're going to stick around at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, Watching Weird will be on. That will be me, Alan Gamboa, Rich Restucci, and the amazing Scott Baker, who missed our show tonight. But we usually will have Scott here with us, so we like to put his CIA knowledge into play here when we do our research. So,
Yes.
also, be sure to check out Weird Awakenings. Weird Awakenings, we live stream at 7 p.m. on Friday nights. So be sure to come back and check it out. This week, Morgana, what are you talking about?
Oh, God, you just put me on the spot.
Sorry.
And my mind just went totally blank. Hang on. I know where I've got the list at. Here we go.
Well, while she gets the list, I'm just
There
going to
you
go
go.
ahead and say thanks, guys, for catching up with us. Tony, always a pleasure to see you. And we're going to plan on doing this a little more often. This is going to be leading into our Fringe FM shows. We are hopefully going to be doing it weekly, and we're going to try and keep it weird, do a little bit of some murder, some mystery, some true crime, and some fascinating, weird, and mysterious history. So be sure and keep us tuned in.
Project MK Ultra.
Ooh, I know about that. So I'm
Yes.
there. Count me in.
Okay. Cool.
So you
All
heard it
right.
here first. Weird Awakenings tomorrow night. We're going to be diving into the CIA's MK Ultra. That ought to be pretty fascinating.
Yep.
And you will see our friends Tully and Cecil from We're in the Folk here with us, as well as the one and only Stephen Hill.
Yep.
So until next time, y'all stay weird.
Good night.
Good night, guys.